Hello, I'm Dr. Sam Hancock of the Emerald Planet and Emerald Planet TV. We come to you on a week-to-week basis from Washington, D.C. in the United States as we look around the globe in 144 different nations, looking for those 1,000 best practices, the technology, services, and products that are making a difference as we move through the 21st century. And as we have a planet of 9 billion people by 2038 and possibly 12 to 13 billion by the end of this century, how are we going to be able to take care of all these people on planet Earth? And that's what Emerald Planet's all about. We come to you looking at the solutions, the best practices from around the globe as we create the Emerald Planet. Hello, welcome to the Emerald Planet. We're making a difference as we move through the 21st century. And seeing the long-term impacts of climate change. We're glad to have you. Thank you for being with us. As you know, we're in Washington, D.C., and we're always looking for the best of the best, those solutions that are making a difference as we move through the 21st century. And as we've always talked about on Emerald Planet TV, we talk about water is life. And now we're adding water plus oxygen is life. Of course, water is H2O, but over the many decades and now maybe centuries, the amount of dissolved oxygen in the water has been steadily decreasing. And a gentleman sitting right beside me is a research scientist as well as a physician and has a number of disciplines in his background. And he looked at water and said, how can we turn that into superwater, correct?
Correct.
And so this is Dr. Linares, goes by Ray. He's the lead scientist, founder, and CEO of HyOx SuperWater. And thank you for being here.
Thank you for hiring me, Sam.
And looking at this superwater, but what is dissolved oxygen? This is something we really didn't define the first time. Let's talk about dissolved oxygen and how does it actually get into the water?
So the molecules of water, H2O, they coalesce and sometimes they create this, I would call it a small basket. And inside those baskets, there are molecules of pure oxygen that are suspended in there. And there's always an interaction, kind of like moving from one molecule to the other. So this single oxygen is what the animals that live in the ocean use when they breathe. So the amount of oxygen that is dissolved in the water is critical for sustaining life.
Yeah, and looking at your facility in Florida, this is actually where you're producing this. And it's amazing to think about you're actually producing higher oxygen water because as human beings, we never really think about it.
Correct.
You know, water has oxygen, so we drink it. The oxygen's in the air, so we breathe it. But we never really think about where it comes from and the essence of water is this, you know, the water itself plus the oxygen is critical to all of our life, but also an enhanced life. So why, again, add this oxygen into it and you really are healing animals, you're healing the plants, and you're healing human beings at the same time.
Correct. So going back thousands of years, the water has more oxygen than we have today. The oxygen has a more pure quality in the air that we are breathing thousands of years to what we're now. Mm-hmm. So there has been a decline due to the industrial pollution, contamination, and that has caused the animals, the plants in general have been suffering for this lack of pure elements that we are exposed and we evolved with them. Mm-hmm. So we evolved with good materials, now we are having bad materials because 60% of our body is water. 80 to 90% of the plants are water. Mm-hmm. So if we have a bad water, we're gonna have bad humans, we're gonna have bad plants, we're gonna have bad animals, or more susceptible to conditions such as chronic illness, etc., that are plaguing our society nowadays. Mm-hmm.
What is code zero fragmentation? What does that really mean? And I have an image here of the schematic about how you're actually supercharging this water with more oxygen. What does this really mean?
So what many scientists all over the world have known that this is a problem. So trying to solve is how do we inject the oxygen back into the water. So has been many different methodologies has been tried, infusing high pressure oxygen, electrolysis, etc. So we developed
And actually just merely stirring the water, using blowers and using,
like you use in a fish
paddles
tank.
and all these things, yeah.
Correct. So we developed this technology called zero fragmentation. It's an electromagnetic way to retweak the molecules of water, the hydrogen, the oxygens, and make it, I would say, similar to what they were thousands of years ago, in which the water is able to release oxygen, but is able to contain that oxygen within it for a longer period of time, because that's what we really need. Mm-hmm. How can we sustain that oxygen in the water for longer periods so it can be used for plants, animals, and the environment without any time limitation?
Now, you went through all this registration process, the FDA, the EPA, and you had third-party evaluators to actually test your water over a period of time to see how long you could interject this, in essence, suspended oxygen into it, and then how long would it last. So tell us a little bit about that process and why having these approvals are so important.
So any food that is directed for human consumption here in the U.S. and most of all over the world, the government entities like here in the U.S., the FDA, are in charge to design protocols, supervise good manufacturing practices, so the product that is going to end up at the line for the consumer is the best quality and reproducible in the same way all the time. Mm-hmm. So the plant where we produce the water here in the U.S. Has won some accolades for water production. Mm-hmm. They're FDA certified, and the EPA certifies the laboratory that tests the waters. Mm-hmm. So every water bottling plant has to have these certifications. So we obtain the certifications through the independent third-party labs that have tested our water, certified the levels of oxygen, the quality of the water, and how it's being produced according to these protocols to be consumed by humans.
And also you tested about the longevity of that. So Correct. You don't just interject this or produce water that has it, and then after 30 days or whatever, that oxygen's gone. You had to prove through this testing that this is going to be suspended oxygen for months and months at a time, correct?
Correct. So this is not like what happens to the carbonated sodas that you open and the gas filters out and then you have flat soda. So here, because of the electromagnetic the technology that we developed, the oxygen remains trapped, suspended in the water for periods up to years or so forth. So now we have tested up to 10 months, and the levels continue to be pretty well, above 200% of the normal amount that is dissolved in the regular water.
Yeah, and actually I understand you can actually boost that much higher than that. But looking at these small units as far as what people actually can have in their home or carry with them on their trips, or even if they're traveling abroad, how does this really help?
So this is going to help because once you test the water, you use it, you'll like it, and you're going to feel the difference. So these are devices, portable devices that you can carry anywhere of the world. You go camping in Alaska or Montana in the Himalayas, and you're going to take the water, and you can introduce one of these devices and hyperoxygenate your water. That is going to improve, and you're going to get all the metabolic benefits of increased hydration with hyperoxygenated water.
Yeah, it's amazing that the simple little device that we're looking at can do all that.
Correct, and that's what we call code zero technology, because the amount of energy needed for these small devices and even for the larger devices are so small that the carbon footprint in these devices is almost zero. So we're not using excessive energy to produce this. Can
Now-
use solar panels for that.
Yeah. Now, looking at putting this into, as you have here, the field system, but anyway, for agricultural purposes. So you're taking it, so you have these units that you actually can produce enough water for a person, for themselves to drink around their home or where they're camping or traveling wherever they want to go. But also, you can do this in large-scale agriculture, correct?
Correct. So and here we use is a tank that many farmers have as a reservoir for their irrigation. So we can put one of our devices there and oxygenate that water in very little time, and they can have that oxygenated water for long periods of time. I just mentioned 10 months, a year, and they can irrigate. Now, the beauty of this is that we have proven and realized that you need only like 20 or 30% of that water compared to what you used to have before. So we are saving the farmers, and especially now in this water crisis all over the world, reducing up to 70 to 80% of the water needed to irrigate for the plants to grow, and they grow better with these lower amounts of hyperoxygenated water.
And also, too, is actually you can put in the organic root stimulant, whatever type of variety that people want to use, so this could actually be applied as a spray, as a liquid, instead of using the old style as far as the granulated fertilizers, correct?
Correct, yes. And we have developed also an organic product that it will help this with probiotics, natural enzymes, natural vegetable extracts, and we call it HyOx.
But also, too, I think with the water and this probiotics, this mixture that you have in this HyOx is actually you're feeding the enzymes, these micro creatures in the soil, so you're actually enhancing their lives. At the same time, you're enhancing the growth of the root system of each of the plants.
Correct. So I compare this what I spoke about the phytoplankton in the ocean. We have a similar phytoplankton in the soil, and actually these microfungi, microbacteria are helping the root, the plant, to get the nutrients needed to provide adequate nutrition through the xylem and phloem, which is the circulatory system of the plant.
Now we have this photograph here. We have a couple of photographs showing the improvement of the soil. So you're addressing the soil as well as the root system of the plants.
Correct. As you mentioned before, the excessive use of fertilizer, chemicals, especially from hydrocarbons produced, excessive nitrogens, potassium, etc., are going to solidify or damage the soil. So these probiotics and these bacteria, this water make the soil, phytoplankton of the soil, to return back to life and are able to transform the soil itself. So the difference that you saw there was achieved just with the water and a small amount of that symbiotic HyOx.
Looking at this as far as this remote control on the irrigation system, so you're actually cut down on the amount of water it's needed. You're increasing the plant life as well as the microbes in the soil. So actually you're improving the soil in many areas across the United States now, as well as in Colombia and many other countries in the future.
Correct. So right now we are trying to do some projects in Jamaica, Spain, with the coffee growers in Jamaica, with some of the zucchini growers in Spain. They call it calabacin, and all they have proven that the soil is brought back to life. So from a deteriorated soil, there has been a soil that is now fertile with rich nutrients and able to sustain and preserve life longer, especially the plants.
That's fantastic. That's Dr. Linares, the lead scientist, founder, CEO of HyOx SuperWater, and also the Terra HyOx, right?
Correct.
And thank you for being with us in Emerald Planet as we look around the globe to find those improvements as we create the Emerald Planet.